Hello, everyone. Oh, it's so good to see you, Alex. Hi, Maya. My name
Hey.
is Kat. I get to be the Chief Philanthropy Officer at Second Harvest of Silicon Valley. We have been the food bank serving San Mateo and Santa Clara counties since 1974. And today we are really excited to be having a conversation with two nutrition experts from our team. Alex Navarro is our Senior Nutrition Education Manager. She's been with the food bank. I can't believe this, that you've been with us for almost 7 years. That's incredible. And you started at the food bank volunteering as a health ambassador, which we are going to encourage everyone watching today to sign up to do. And now you get to oversee that program. Maya is our director of nutrition. And I'm just so happy both of you are here. Before I ask you to share a little bit about your journey coming to these roles, I want to share with everyone that today's conversation, the title of it, we're talking about misconceptions about obesity. And I just want to say outright, food justice work is complex work. And we really today want to talk about that complexity. So we're going to be putting links out for you. Check out how to learn, check out how to be a health ambassador, check out how to volunteer. We also today, in honor of Hunger Action Month, today is Hunger Action Day. I have a cool button right here. I keep going to the wrong side. But I have a cool button, and you can get a button too if you volunteer at one of our warehouses. We need your help. But you can get a button. We can get you a sticker. We got all the swag, people. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the notion of being healthy at any weight and the complexity around that. But before we dive in, Alex, I mentioned earlier, you get to oversee the Health Ambassador program. And I just wondered if you would share a little bit about how you came to be in this role and why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, well, I know. I feel like it has really gone full circle for me. Volunteering, 7, almost 8 years ago. Although the journey to where I'm at in nutrition kind of goes beyond that, and do you want me to share that right now? A little bit of my own personal
I think it would be great for everybody to hear.
So, I will say that growing up, I think food issues were always there. We're always kind of, in the dinner table and in conversations, there was always issues with food. I think growing up too, as I became a young adult, I had these unhealthy relationships with food. And I will share it. This is a very deep personal level, very personal experience for me. At a low point, I decided to get help. And I will tell you, I went in, I was ashamed, I was guarded, and I felt like I was going to be judged. And more, I think the judgment came from myself, right? Because of this stereotype, I was an average size, right? I didn't fit this narrative. Of, hey, this person looks like they have weight struggles. Hey, this person looks like they have food struggles, right? So in my head, I didn't look skinny enough to be someone that restricted food. I didn't look heavy enough to be a binge eater. But the truth was I was both. I was all of that, and, I will tell you, today's conversation, I love it because it's so raw and so real. And we talk about these stereotypes. I wish that I had fit into one of those stereotypes. I wish that I had fit into, hey, you're this body weight. So, she must have these behaviors. And I felt like that would be more acceptable, So it's just kind of interesting when we think of like these bad behaviors, you can't judge someone by the way that they look. Right. And that goes with being obese, overweight, or being, really skinny, or that goes with, the look of food insecurity, what that looks like. So this journey had me really passionate about nutrition, started to volunteer, became a health ambassador, loved the role, love what I do out there in the community. And almost 7 years later, here I am. We get to have these conversations, which is really exciting. So thank you for that platform.
I'm so excited to have you here. So happy that you have dedicated most of your waking hours to this issue. I want to say hi to BB Love, who says, Hola, back at you. It's so good to have you here. We shared an article in the chat that a lot of us we've been talking about for a long time, and I encourage you to read it like after we're done talking, because we want you to be a part of this conversation. But we will refer to it a couple times. It's really powerful. And then Maya, I would love if you would share a little bit about. I know you have such an interesting story of how you decided to pursue nutrition and public health as a career. So you're our director of nutrition. How many years have you been with Second Harvest?
Going on 3 years. It's hard to believe. It's flown by. And yeah, I'm a registered dietitian and went back to school to get my master's in public health. And, that's a very traditional track. I entered it in a kind of untraditional way. I was initially going to school for social work. I thought I wanted to be in social work. And at the same time, throughout most of my, growing years, my childhood, I was overweight. And so around college, early couple years of college, I decided I wanted to make some changes. And I just did my own research. I started looking up what are some things that I could do to live a healthier lifestyle. Honestly, focusing less on the weight and more just about adopting some healthy lifestyle habits, drinking more water, moving around more, making some different food choices just to feel better. And that really got me into nutrition. And when I saw, registered dietitians, what do? They talk to people about barriers to living a healthy lifestyle and giving some pointers on how to, in your current situation, what are some small things you can do to make changes? And when I saw like that's a career path, I could actually do that and work with people and help them, get past these barriers that they have, or they might be perceiving some barriers. That really got me motivated, and that really set me on this track to work in this field.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the whole motivators thing. And it's so much more than just what meets the eye. Like Alex, your story is about the stereotype. And I think that so much of this conversation, we're bringing, let's just bring the judgment out. Like, let's name that there's judgment about this. And I said at the top, and I'm going to say it again and again, this is complex work. All of the work that Second Harvest does, from really making sure that folks have access to the nutritious food they need, to where we distribute it, how we distribute, what we distribute, how we speak with our clients. And that's one thing I want to say too. Our clients are our neighbors. They live in our neighborhoods. We send our kids to school with them. They work in our workplaces. There isn't such a barrier. And I think it's so easy to want to put up an us and them thing. And we do this with all sorts of things nowadays. You put up this barrier, but I want to call out that this complexity is important to mention, and we're going to dig into it. And food is so personal. When I think about my favorite meals, they're tied to memories, right? Weight is so personal. I mean, it's our self-esteem sometimes is rooted in it. And so when we're talking about this, we as a trio today want to do our best to really acknowledge that this is a deeply personal conversation that we're having on a platform with a lot of strangers, and we're very happy to have you. And we know some of you as well. So feel free to put some comments in the chat. Just remember that we want to come at this with a sense of compassion and appreciation for the bravery to talk about this, because we're only going to get to the solution and the best way of helping our neighbors through digging into the complexity. And sometimes that feels a little uncertain, but I think we can do it. We have two great experts with us, so I'm really happy to have you both. So I wanted to just start talking about this notion of there's this notion that, okay, obesity might be something that we want to work on or minimize or remedy. And at the same time, there's this notion of you can be healthy at any weight. Are these competing? Are they how do we bring these two together? Because I think sometimes it's really confusing, especially if you identify with any of the stereotypes around weight. So I don't know, Maya, you want to talk a little bit about that? And
I think the two don't have to be conflicting. I think a lot of times, health at every size is a movement that's been going on for many, many years now, decades. And so the reason this movement came out is because people wanted to address the fact that the problem to tackle is not necessarily overweight and obesity. It's not just the number on the scale, right? Because we know that you can be healthy at every size. You can live a healthy lifestyle and still be at a heavier weight. But I think that the sort of problem there that butts against each other is, the medical community looks at overweight and obesity as kind of a diagnosis that we need to tackle this, and then a lot of the other problems that may be there will fall away, like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure. A lot of these conditions are less common for people at a lower weight. But what the other view is that obesity and overweight are symptoms of greater problems, and we're talking about systemic problems here. Even racism has a part to play in that, in this whole narrative that smaller is better, thinner is better, is more desirable, etc. And also, a lot of the medical conditions that medical professionals link to overweight and obesity, if we tackle those, the weight will stabilize in its own way. It doesn't mean everybody's going to have a BMI of, 23 or something like that. But it means that everyone has sort of a normal, healthy set point for their weight. And some might be lower, some might be higher. But that weight can be maintained with a healthy lifestyle. And so it's really about getting people to their own set point, whatever that is, and to manage these other conditions that are going on so that everyone has that opportunity to live out their best lifestyle, live a really healthy, fruitful, happy, fun lifestyle.
Yeah, Alex, you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything Maya says. And I think what these conversations do, it kind of invites us, to kind of see what else is the underlying issue. We in the nutrition department now, we're looking at things through a trauma-informed lens, right? Where public health tends to look at things like, okay, we see a person, we see their weight, and we see their risky behavior. Okay, so what is, someone, a dietitian or a nutritionist going to say? The stuff we already know, move more, drink more water, and eat less, right? Not seeing these other underlying reasons, right? Or, they tell you to go outside and take a walk. Well, what do we know about these social disadvantages? What do we know about their neighborhoods? Do they have a safe neighborhood to walk in? Is there a lot of crime around that neighborhood so they don't feel this sense of safety when they go out and walk? You're telling someone to just eat healthier. Well, is that food accessible and is it affordable? And can you find it, at a local grocery store near you? And then can you go home and prepare that healthy meal for your family? It's really complex, and planning, a healthy meal is hard enough for just us, right? Like, I'm exhausted at the end of the day. Last night, it was like me and my husband, all right, do you want a frozen pizza or do you want like frozen Indian food? And that's the reality is it's some days it's hard enough to plan a healthy meal and a healthy lifestyle, and you think of families that, don't want to risk creating this healthy meal, the child being a quote unquote picky eater and not wanting to eat it, right? Mm-hmm. So there is all these underlying reasons as to why these symptoms are happening, why these are certain behaviors. And again, these conversations really invite us to dig a little deeper and be really thoughtful when we have these conversations with our clients, with our neighbors, like you said, with our family. Hey, let's be a little bit thoughtful about how we bring up these really hard conversations. It's a tough topic. Yeah.
Well, it's true. I mean, if it were just down to if the underlying cause of any sort of weight or nutrition problem was just the weight or nutrition, we'd all be at our ideal weight eating the ideal things. But let's just think about the joke of the COVID-19, right? That happened not because, just all of a sudden we kind of got off track. There was boredom, pandemic depression.
Upheaval, social upheaval. Yeah. Everything was just,
I want to say real quick hello to Aries. We have some new folks joining us. Hi, Kieran. Thanks for the claps. It's so good to see you all here. Please feel free to put questions in the chat. We can have our nutrition team address them. I think too, like when we look at this issue, there's so many. Maya, you mentioned, social issues, access, safety. So many things can tie into this. That's not just so simple to
Calories in
solve.
versus calories out,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So it's,
like a lot of the work that our nutrition team is doing currently is around trauma-informed nutrition, which is this notion and this concept that research is backing that shows, trauma and childhood trauma, toxic stress is also something. I mean, I think we all have experienced or maybe going through varying levels of stress, but when it becomes toxic, that's when it really becomes a concern, and it can change your health. It can change the way you sleep. It can change the food choices that you have. And so, when we're talking about trauma and health and toxic stress and health, that is really the foundation of many health problems, including just the basic thing of inflammation, which inflammation is pretty much the cause of so many health problems within your body. Your cells become inflamed, and all of these different reactions happen, and it causes you to fall ill. And so when we look at that underlying piece of trauma and toxic stress and just all of the barriers that exist there for people to change the way they eat or make some healthier habits stick, the symptoms of that and the sort of product of that is overweight, obesity, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, high blood, heart disease, all of these conditions that used to be looked at sort of the other way around, where somebody has this condition, now let's make them change the way they eat without looking at how did they even get this condition beyond the actual physiology of it, beyond, the insulin and insulin resistance, that kind of thing. But how did they even get that? And what research is showing now is adverse childhood experiences, trauma, toxic stress. Those are the foundations that lead to all of these different conditions. And when you look at it like that, the solution to this problem needs to be much more comprehensive. It needs to start a lot earlier. It needs to be very closely looked at everybody in the community and what resources are there and what resources do each, does each member of the community or family in the community have. So it's a much more complex problem.
Yeah, and you bring up childhood adverse experiences, right? And it's Kat. You mentioned it's National Childhood Obesity Month, and with a child, think about a child's like first offering from a mother. It's food, right? It's survival, right? And then food. Then throughout the years, it's used to regulate emotions, and if that is an ongoing cycle. If we use food to regulate emotions time and time again, and you use it to soothe, what does that end up happening after 15, 20 years, And it's what we learned also with the trauma stuff is, giving food, that's about showing love. That's about receiving love. We talk about food being a love language. And I do believe that. I do believe that's like there's like 5 love languages. Yeah. I think this is the 6th, food is that 6th love language. And so childhood obesity, that is really complex. When it is, a parent, that is the way that I show love. That is the way my mother showed me love. That is the way I'm showing my child love. Yeah. And that's the way that a child knows how to receive love. And that's what soothes them. So really tough, right? But, it's something, again, we become intentional about how we approach conversations and topics like that.
I don't know if you have followed the podcasts and shows. Anthony Porosky from Queer Eye is promoting his new cookbook. And I heard him talk about how he says, when I notice myself only allowing myself the ice cream sundae as a treat, like when I feel really good, I have to pay attention to that. And when I only allow myself the ice cream sundae when I'm stressed, I have to pay attention to that, because if it becomes an all or nothing, when I only associate it with a specific feeling, that's when it's important to just pause and say, is this what I really need? Or is this just a habit coming out? And I think that, one of the things we shared in the chat, this really outstanding article, and it's a little hard to read. The author of the article, she talks about what it's like, and she self-describes as morbidly obese, and she's in the food justice world, and she works similar to a lot of our nutrition team out in the community to help make sure folks who need access to healthy, nutritious food get it. And she says, in the reality of feeding a struggling family, the food pyramid is irrelevant. Keeping us fed was a source of pride, and junk food was a source of joy. And I think, like, when I think about just like anyone's diet, oh, it's a treat to have that burger or pizza or ice cream thing. It's a positive element. And so as a parent, maybe, who's working multiple jobs, who's struggling through a pandemic, who's trying to figure out how to care for their parents or extended family in a world that's been turned upside down, if it makes your kids happy to give them the pizza, I think you're probably going to do it. And that is their expression of love. And so we have to meet everybody we work with where they are and say, okay, that's great. Love your kids. Let's not put the stigma on that. Let's embrace that love and do other things. And I think this is the thing where it's like we enter into that complexity. I just want to call out Aries in the chat. She says, thank you for the food. I gave a tour today. I don't know if any of you watching got to see, went on Instagram Live and toured our Cypress warehouse. And one of the things that I love seeing at our Cypress warehouse is we have tacked up on the wall a note from a little kid who wrote in to say thank you for the food. And I wondered if, Maya, if you could talk a little bit about the kind of food we distribute. What can people expect when they reach out to Second Harvest? Because there's a lot of fear around that too. So what can people get when they get food from us?
Yeah, and I think this is great to address, especially as we're entering kind of the fall and holiday season, when you think of nourishing foods and foods that you want to put on a table and have family get together around. There's a conception still that I think, food banks are really big food pantries, and it's non-perishable stuff. It's canned goods. It's stuff that you can leave out forever and it won't go bad. But on the contrary, when you come to our distributions and you see what's there, it's mainly produce. There's a ton of fresh produce that we distribute. Our goal is to distribute at least 50% fresh produce. There are many months that we go above that. There are some months where we dip below that, depending on what's come in. But that's the primary thing that you're going to see. And then along with that, lean meats, different protein sources, vegetarian protein sources, beans and lentils, both canned and dried, tofu. We have tofu at our distributions, which I think is fantastic. Whole grains as well as refined grains, because it's a balance, and we all enjoy, our white rice and our flour tortillas at the same time. They enjoy the whole grain versions of those. And then, different kinds of, a variety of grains, dairy products, dairy alternatives. It's really like you're going to a market and you get to see what's there, and it's this really good balance of fresh foods really dominating it.
We have today we had a ton of volunteers in our warehouses sorting foods. We actually had a shipment of oat milk that we were packaging up to go out into the community. So I think, yeah, exactly. Oat milk's great. I think that, when we think about what we do, it's really important to kind of break down that stigma of fear to come and get the food that you might need. So if anybody watching is curious or finds themselves in a place where they need access to nutritious food, visit our website, shfb.org. You can find help there. We can connect you to a distribution in your neighborhood. Before the pandemic, we had a lot of distributions that were kind of like walk-up farmers market style. Now a lot of our distributions are drive-through. And so there's different kinds in different neighborhoods. This is Hunger Action Day. And I just want to encourage anyone watching to do two things. Check out how to become a health ambassador. You can check out our website for that. We'll put that in the chat so you can click directly to that. And then also, we really need volunteers. I said I was going to say two things. I'm going to say three. We really need volunteers. We actually, right now, because we have such an increased need in the community, we are leasing a fourth warehouse. We just found a warehouse. It's full of food. We need help sorting it. So we really need volunteers at our Brennan Center, as well as out at our distribution sites. So check out our website, sign up to volunteer. And right now we have a match. So when you donate $1, it will be matched by one of our generous donors. And so please take advantage of that. I'm really excited. Today, we actually started today with a triple match. And we thought we'd, have it available for several hours. And all of you supporters signed up so quick to make sure we accomplished getting that match. And so now we have another match. It's dollar for dollar until the end of the month. So please donate, because your dollars will be put to good use. 95 cents of every dollar goes toward client programs. I am just thrilled that we got to spend some time with Alex and Maya. Thank you so much. Thank you for your dedication to this work, for making sure that those who need access can get it. And I just want to end with a quote from that article we put in the chat. And the author says, "This body is the body of someone who is loved, worthy of self-esteem, regardless of how much space it takes up." So
it looks like Kat dropped from the live, but let me see if I can look at that quote she was reading. But one other thing, and the link is in the banner at the bottom of the screen. We have a really wonderful nutrition center online, and it's right on the website. You can see the link right there, and it has a ton of recipes across a bunch of different cultures and a bunch of different flavor palettes. And so you can find something to make with all of this food that you receive from us.
Yeah, we had a great demo today too, right?
Yeah. And I'll just quickly add, Kat mentioned about becoming a volunteer. It's a wonderful program. It's got, I have a soft spot for it because I started as the volunteer. If you want to engage, be out in the community, share recipes, share stories around food, help inspire people, our community to, to live healthy and enjoyable diets, become a health ambassador. It's a wonderful program. And the link is on there for you to join.
Right on. Well, thank you all so much.
You.
Take care of yourselves, eat well, and we are all worthy of love and self-esteem, no matter how much space we take up. I'm really grateful for this time today. Thanks to all of you for joining in as well.
Thanks, Kat. Thanks, Maya.